asking if you're available.
Board Member Honak?
No sense of anything.
Can you hear us?
Trying to click the damn microphone. It's muted.
Okay, we can hear you now. Can you hear us?
You hear me? Yeah, it says board one muted. Yes, sorry, I just arrived home from downtown, rushed in. So so here I am all ready to go. I don't understand what the picture I'm seeing is here on my end. Where did that picture come from? I have no idea.
Okay, welcome everyone. Today is Tuesday, April 12th, 2022, and this is the regular meeting of the Governing Board of the Litchfield Elementary School District. This meeting is now called to order. We will begin our meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand and join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
For which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We will now have a moment of silent reflection. Please join me. Thank you. Next on our agenda is item 3A, recognitions and celebrations, which will be presented by Mrs. Hornback.
Good evening, President Moran, members of the board, Superintendent Gunning. Welcome to everyone in the audience. It's always my deep honor to begin our governing board meetings with a moment to reflect on the celebrations and success and achievement of our award-winning district. You've heard Superintendent Gunning say this time and time again, and the words are still just so true. Schools cannot do it alone. We rely so heavily on our community to pursue academic achievement for more than 11,000 students and help 1,400 employees feel proud and happy about where they work. So we look to our community to help us thrive and succeed. And most importantly, I would say, is our parent partners. We have parents and guardians, including aunts, uncles, grandparents, and neighbors who join our parent organizations at our schools to help support our teachers and students. The PTAs, PTOs, and Jaguar Booster Club within our school district lean in daily, if not hourly, to make sure that our staff is taken care of. First and foremost, when we meet at the beginning of every year, we say, what are we going to focus on? Teacher and staff appreciation. This is what we do. We make sure that our 1,400 staff members feel loved, valued, important, and recognized. There's absolutely no way that our staff alone could do that for each other. We need our community to lean in, and we're so very grateful for our PTAs and PTOs who do that with us. Tonight we have 3 of our parent organizations represented. However, many others are watching online, and we recognize them throughout the year, just like we need to recognize our staff throughout the year. Our volunteers need to be thanked and recognized at all times, but this special moment, every April at our board meeting, we like to take an opportunity for our governing board to acknowledge the intensive labor that is brought to our school community by these parent leaders. I'm talking hundreds of thousands of dollars that they raise within their school family, and they give it right back to the school. They're buying technology, they're buying equipment, they're funding field trips, they're funding special activities for students, they're funding special opportunities, special to the teachers and staff. I'm talking a whole lot of coffee and food. I mean, potlucks galore, all right? We're organizing kids to do fun runs and special after-school events, all in the name of teacher and staff appreciation. So we invited some of our parent leaders to tell us what they were most proud of this school year. And we heard from Mabel Paget Elementary School Panthers, and they're talking about organizational development. They're talking about leaning into the structure of their PTO to heighten it, strengthen it, so that they can look at sustainability to be there for many years to come. They're heightening their social media, and they're really making sure that staff is engaged. So they've got teachers and staff attending their events in droves, in numbers that we just haven't seen before. So we're so excited about that. At Dreaming Summit, they had an off-the-charts trunk or treat event this year. And of course, we are still so grateful that it's in person. We were able to do this in person with our Bulldog family. They had a huge fun run, raised over $16,000, and they sell their spirit gear at cost. So they're not trying to make money off of their families with this spirit gear. They're just trying to promote school pride and help teachers, staff, and students love where they go to school. Tonight, we'll also see our Roadrunners here tonight. And, you know, they are our National PTA School of Excellence. National PTA School of Excellence. I mean, so few within the entire country have achieved that award. And we have Scott Libby Roadrunner PTA right here as a national leader. They've won national and statewide grants, and they're getting a lot of attention right now for their really cool male engagement committee. These dads and uncles and grandpas are leaning in. They're having their own special meetings talking about what they can do to help support the PTA. The kids are just flocking to their table at all of the school events because it's so fun to see these group of dads with their matching shirts building little libraries and really helping kids get excited about learning and helping teachers feel loved. So please tonight, when you go home, take a moment to offer your own special gratitude to the PTA leaders that help our school district shine. That might be an email or a Facebook post or a handwritten note to a PTA that you really admire, whatever that looks like for you. But these parent leaders deserve our deepest gratitude, our utmost respect, and our heartfelt thanks tonight for their outstanding service. Roadrunners, Bulldogs, Panthers, come on up. We're going to take a picture with you and President Moran, Superintendent Gunning. We've got our principals from those schools. Come on up, please. We're going to get a picture. Your children are welcome in the photo if they choose. Thank you, President Moran. We appreciate this opportunity to celebrate.
Thank you to all of our PTOs and PTAs. I am a member and have been a member of quite a few of them over the years, and I still volunteer at the school level as well, and I know how valuable your time and efforts are toward not only the financial resources of our campuses, but also just the moral support of our teachers and staff. So thank you very much.
I'd also like to just say one really quick thing about PTOs and PTAs. I think this honestly affects at least 3 of us up here, maybe Dr. Dowling, I'm not sure, but many other people. There's a lot of leaders that start right in the PTA, PTSA, and PTO. 3 of us up here started that way in the school district with our kids. and wanted to take it to the next level. And now we sit here and are able to affect change in a different way. But people that are involved at that level can make a real difference in your school, in your community, in the district at large. So thank you for what you do. It's important. And keep going. Don't stop here. I mean, you could have a seat up here. Not sure if you want it, but it's all yours for the taking. So keep going, and thank you for your hard work.
There is an election this fall. There'll be 2 seats open if anyone is interested in running. Amy Potapoff can give you some instructions on how to make that a possibility. Next up on our agenda is item 4A, public comment. I will read the disclaimer and then I will call up our public comment participants by name. Pursuant to ARS 38-431.01H, this agenda item provides an open call to the public, allowing individuals to address the governing board on any issue within the jurisdiction of the board. Items not listed on the agenda may be brought to the governing board's attention under this section of the agenda. Due to the Arizona open meeting law, the governing board cannot discuss or take action on items not listed on the agenda. Therefore, pursuant to ARS 38-431.01H, action taken as a result of public comment will be limited to directing staff to study the matter, responding to any criticism, or scheduling the matter for further consideration and decision at a later date. Please limit your comments to no more than 3 minutes, and no more than 30 minutes will be devoted to the public comment portion of the agenda. When you approach the podium, please state your name for the record. Our first public participant this evening is Ms. Cynthia Schwartz.
Cynthia Schwartz. I want to talk about a couple agenda items. One is 8A, Superintendent Goals Update. In the survey, it says the lowest scoring item is the superintendent's manages district finances effectively with a mean score of 3.22. Keeping this in mind on tonight's agenda, there are other questions about financial management of the district's money. Consent Agenda 6P, out-of-state travel request to attend Kagan's Summer Academy. There's no information about this except out-of-state travel. It will be in Lake Buena Vista, Florida. So I looked up Kagan's website, and it says, these are their words, not mine, it will be held in the magical Walt Disney World Resort in Orlando. In addition, the academy being held in the magical Walt Disney World Resort, the website says that Kagan offers regional academies in 10 cities across the USA. So I looked up, what are the other academies? Well, guess what? Right here, Arizona has the most regional academies offered by Kagan, and most of them are in Phoenix. So this regional academy offers the same offerings, it appears to be, as the magical Walt Disney Resort. There's 2 workshops that are mentioned. One is win-win discipline. This, to me, I read the description, it echoes conscious discipline. The other one is social emotional learning. It says it will improve class climate and, get this, raise students' IQ by eliciting positive emotions. And so I'd like to know, does the board really think that we're going to raise student IQs by one person attending this workshop? Also, the teacher who's mentioned in the travel request has received stipends to attend events for conscious discipline. So the question is, why is the administration wanting to spend $4,000 on a workshop in the magical Walt Disney World Resort when they've never measured the program results for $221,000 already spent on Kagan? Kagan says, and I'm repeating from another meeting, it produces a 32 percentile gain. Students in the 50th percentile using Kagan now scored in the 82nd percentile. Did Kagan, and it will reduce the achievement gap. Has this happened in LESD? The monies are being spent on conscious discipline, Kagan, goal books, and other programs promising increases in academics. None of these have been evaluated or examined. And I do recognize that it's hard to evaluate some of these, I call them fuzzy programs, but why are we spending money on them if we can't measure them?
Thank you, Ms. Schwartz. Our next public participant is Melissa Andrews.
Good evening, board. Thank you. My name is Melissa Andrews. I'm current vice president at Scott Libby Elementary. I just want to thank our principal, Corby Naylor, for constantly backing us and trusting us to have the child's best interest at heart. As stated, we are national PTA recognized. We're second in Arizona, so there's only 2 of us within the state that are nationally recognized as a school of excellence, so we hold that with pride. I want to thank the lovely ladies sitting right next to me, Carmen and Bibiana. This is their last year at Scott Libby PTA. We've done it, all 3 of us, the past 2 years, and we've set the bar so high that I'm the incoming president and I'm nervous. I don't know if we'll be able to keep the standard going, but I'm going to try my hardest. Sitting next to them is my husband, Al Andrews, who has grown the Male Engagement Committee at Scott Libby to the point where we have other schools asking us to do a development plan. So we did give that to Mrs. Naylor today to present to district for the other schools to copy, because it has been proven that students look to men within the school. They do 20% better than children who do not have males present at the school. They're at froyos, book fairs, winter shops. They're there just to be there, and I cannot thank them enough. I love you ladies. It's been an honor PTAing with you. Thank you. Thank you, board, for listening to me and our accolades. And one more thing, we did just win the American Academy of Dermatology grant for a sunshade at our school. So we have that looking forward to this summer. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Andrews. Our next public participant is Ella Mardick.
Good evening. My name is Ella Mardick. I'm the office manager for the Transportation Department. I want to thank you all for hiring Nathan White for our Director of Transportation. He has brought a wealth of knowledge and professionalism to our department, and we are so grateful for him. Our department is in desperate need of a mechanic. We have a prospective person who has applied for this position. I encourage you to offer this applicant a competitive salary. Our fleet supervisor, James Boswell, and mechanic Bill Hunsaker work diligently to maintain the buses. They need help. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Mardick. That concludes our call to the public. Next on our agenda is the consent agenda. I will begin by asking any board members if they have items they would like to pull from the consent agenda. I will go first. I would like to pull item 6C and item 6O from the consent agenda. Board members Idema, do you have any items to pull from the agenda? Board member Dowling, do you have any items?
I have some items I'd like to get further clarification on.
Please, could you please speak directly into the microphone? Thank you.
Tell if it's on or off. Okay, I need clarification, so if you want me to pull them, I can pull the items, but I just have a couple questions.
Okay, can we try to leave them on and answer the questions, and then before we approve, you can still go ahead and pull? Does that sound reasonable?
So discuss them before, okay.
Yes, we'll have an area for comments before it's approved. Board member Clymer, do you have anything?
I do not, thank you.
Board member Honak, do you have anything?
No, I don't. And Mr. Dowling, if the green light is on your microphone, then it's on. If the green light's off, it's off.
The light doesn't work, Jerry.
it's not plugged in.
Okay, I will begin the comment section before we move to approve the consent agenda, less items 6C and 6O. I would like to make a comment on item 6F, which is our acceptance of gifts, grants, and bequests, to say a huge thank you to the Arizona Department of Education and Donors Choose for all of the classroom supplies and support that they've given to the district. They have donated over $170,000 to our teachers in our district, which is absolutely amazing. I'm very appreciative of that. Dr. Dowling, you have some comments or questions?
Yes, I have a question on item 6E on the budget report, student activity funds. Looking at the funds, it looks like we aren't spending anything. Is this normal? Can someone help me to understand why we have almost the same amount of money as we started with? I understand there is some deposits, but
So the student activity funds are led by the student activities person at their campus. So it's up to how active the students are with their leader and what activities they're doing. At the district level, we don't have any control over that. That's the students and their student activities person.
okay,
But
is this normal to see no expenditures over the course of a year?
there's normally some more, but they've been limited on the activities they've been doing this year.
Okay.
But we can
And-
definitely follow up with the schools.
Okay, what can we do to encourage this money to be expended, or is this all donations or not? This is M&O?
So this is not M&O. These are funds that the students are raising. So on their campus, maybe they're having a hat day or boograms, selling flowers, different things like that. So it's all student-raised funds, but we can definitely follow up with the schools and see what their plans are.
Yeah, if they're raising the money, then they probably ought to try to use it. But that was my question. And I've got a couple more. On item 6K, on the resignations, termination of classified personnel. I thought we had agreed that there would be a reason for leaving. We had it on the last board meeting, now we're not, it's dropped off.
I don't know if I'm interrupting, but I would like, I believe it's 6O taken out of the agenda also. It's the one, or 6P. It's the one about the out-of-state travel to Kagan.
Thank you, Board Member Honak.
Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Dowling, to answer your question, the reasons for personnel who are resigning, we are actually providing that to the board in the board reports. We are giving you the one of the many reasons that we know why people are leaving, so we are providing that. It's in the administrative section of your board report.
Was it on our docs? Okay, I didn't,
Give us just a minute while Board Member Dowling locates the report.
I thought I had it.
Sometimes those reasons include medical reasons. We, of course, do not give you details about the medical reason, and so that information is included in that report.
I thought I had printed it. Okay. Okay, I missed it. Okay, Okay, then I missed it. I apologize to everybody involved who I raised your level of anxiety. I apologize.
Thank you.
Sorry, Monica.
Thank you, Mr. Dowling. Do you have additional questions or comments?
Yes, on item 6L, clarification on example, Litchfield Elementary, you have a cross-cat, new hire. Do you see that? My question is, it says new hires. What's the fun? Does that mean they're new hires, or are they people who are replacing somebody? If they're new, are these grant-funded positions or M&O?
For clarification, you're asking if it's a new position or a new hire into an existing position, correct?
Well, the question is, it says new hire. Is that a new position, or was that a vacant position? I want clarity on that. Was it a contracted position? Now we've got somebody on board?
She's pulling it up. So they are new hires. So that means they're not, it would say voluntary transfer if it was an internal person transferring over. But she would have to look to see if it's a new position for adding to a program, or is it a program that just transferred over, or that's being replaced at that location. But these two positions will be at Litchfield Elementary, and they begin August 3rd.
So were these filled by contracted employees previously? That's my question.
Right, she'd have to look it up to see,
Okay.
because I don't know if it's somebody
If
that...
they were, and they were grant funded, then we should continue with them being grant funded through Title II instead of M&O.
Right, and we don't list the funding on the position, so that's why she would have to look it up to see exactly what funds would be
Understood.
under
Maybe we
each
should
position.
for our eyes.
So it's something,
And Wendy knows where I'm going with this.
I do. But it would continue to be funded wherever it was funded from before. So if it was in the grant, it would stay in the grant.
I understand you can't go, you can go grant to M&O, you can't go M&O to grant. That's called
Correct.
supplanting.
Right.
I understand that. The question is, were these positions funded with grants previously? Or is there a way that we can, since they were unfilled, can we move them into a grant-funded position?
and so those kind of things, that would be really helpful if we get questions ahead of time, because positions are funded so many
Well,
different
it would also
different
be
ways.
helpful if
Yeah.
I knew the funding source.
Yeah. Did you?
Then I probably wouldn't be asking the question.
Right. And we could send that information to you
Okay.
in a Friday update or later. Did you have something else to add?
Dr. Dowling, would it be helpful to you going forward if they included that information in the report originally, the funding source, and then perhaps a new position versus replacement specification?
Exactly. Yeah, the
Okay.
point being, if it was an unfilled, a vacant position for a long period of time, can we move it into the grants? Or if it was a contracted employee that was now we finally hired somebody, then, can we use grant money versus the M&O money? But,
Well, we definitely always try to maximize the use of our grant funds.
I'd like to know that. So can
Definitely.
you get back to me on that?
So that position is currently grant funded, and it will remain grant funded.
Okay, it'd be nice to know if, I'd like to see it. So make sure that we're maximizing our grant
So I think we'd have,
funds.
Yeah, and we can definitely talk about that, President Moran, because we got to look at capacity and how do we match up both
Maybe nobody else
departments.
wants to see it.
Okay, thank you. I believe we'll come to a agreement on that going forward. Any other comments, Dr. Dowling, or questions?
No, I'm done on this.
Does anyone else have any comments or questions on any items on the consent agenda?
Jeremy Honak here. I did
Go ahead.
on 6, on whatever number P, but if it's someone else's turn right now, go ahead.
We will come back to that. We will go ahead and approve the consent agenda items. We will remove the items that we want to discuss further. So I will move to approve the consent agenda as presented minus items 6C, 6O, and 6P.
I second.
Having a first and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We will now address items removed from the consent agenda, the first being item 6C, which is the approval of minutes of the regular meeting on March 15th, 2022. I asked to pull this item from the agenda due to accuracy. On section 9B, reports from governing board members, the minutes state that, quote unquote, a shouting match ensued. This is not accurate. I propose that statement is replaced with, and I quote, Mr. Honak refused and responded with an extended period of shouting. Mrs. Moran repeatedly called for decorum. Is there any comment or discussion on that item?
You just said, Jeremy Honak here, you just said this executive session, March 22?
No, Mr. Honak, I said the minutes from the 3:15 meeting, March 15th, which is agenda item 6C on the consent agenda.
Thank you. I believe that what it says is correct. It says a shouting match ensued. If we were going to change it to be accurate, what we should say that I was given the floor to give my presentation, which was a very coherent and well-written and well thought out about a movie that showed why schools, which were once the best, became the worst, and how that all of the equity and the things that were secretly done and hidden, that the Arizona Attorney General found 2 violations in LESD, and that if we did focus on in academics, the problem is that where are the children? Who owns the children? At LESD, the board acts like they do. When the parents say they want improving academics and achievement as their number 1 priority, and they want equity as their last.
All of that is in the minutes.
I'm giving my reasoning to why it should stay the same. And I'm going to say, if we did change it, we should state that I was interrupted. I was giving a legitimate speech. I was stating stuff. It was 100% on the agenda, instead of hearing about Ms. Moran's vacations and stuff that had nothing to do with the school. And I was interrupted. And when I protested and said, you're interrupting me illegally and I should be allowed to finish, you just kept heckling and heckling and heckling, and then ended the meeting, when in fact, if you just said, okay, fine, let him finish my thing, we would have been done in like 15 seconds, and that would have been the end of that. So if you want to change it, then I think you should put in that the board president unjustifiably interrupted with the false claim that it wasn't on the agenda, and then continued to heckle board member Honak until she finally decided to just bang her gavel and end the meeting. Otherwise, let's just leave it the way it is.
Thank you for your feedback, Mr. Honak. Do any other board members have any comments on this item?
I'd like to make a motion. I move to replace the current statement with the proposed statement that Ms. Moran read earlier.
I second.
Having a first and a second, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Nay.
2 nays, 3 yeas, motion carries. Next up on the agenda is item 6O, which was removed from the consent agenda. Out-of-state travel request for Laura Combs, Director of Educational Technology, and 1 additional employee to attend the Computer Science Teacher Association Conference. I asked to pull this agenda item because on the agenda item itself, it does state that Ms. Combs would be going to this conference, but the other person is a TBD. I'm not comfortable approving a TBD. Can someone please tell me more about who will be going and attending that conference, please?
I'm sorry, you're right, that is not clear. It would be, Laura Combs, the Director of Educational Technology. It was not clear. It's the newly created position, the STEAM coach, that would be attending as well. We just had not hired that person yet. That's why it said TBD.
Okay, great. That's all I wanted to know.
Perfect. Any other questions from any of our other board members?
Okay, then I move to approve consent agenda item 6O as presented.
I second.
Having a first and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up is item 6P, out-of-state travel request, Amy Alec to attend Kagan Summer Academy 2022. Mr. Honak, you have the floor.
Thank you again, as Jeremy Honak. I concur with what Ms. Schwartz said. It sounds like she really looked into it. And I don't understand why going to Disney World and all the way across when it sounds like pretty much the same event would have been in Phoenix, where perhaps hotel stays weren't required and travel expense wasn't required. And that's egregious. I think spending all that money. I forget how much it was, like $3,000, 3,000, whatever, 4,000. It's questionable. It's another one of these fluffy things, as she stated correctly, that supposedly their marketing says how wonderful things are going to go. Well, our academics are down somewhere in between the dumpster floor and the ground, with 71% of our graduates going to high school without being proficient at math, and yet we're spending all these money on this program, and nobody's done any metric to see that it has helped even 1 iota. And so I think it's completely frivolous and under the circumstances of what's going on at Litchfield, outrageous. And I believe the public has every right to be outraged and furious about that. We serve the public, and at least 2 of us on the board do. And so
Thank you for your feedback, Mr. Honak. Executive Director DeCoste, do you have some additional information on this for us?
I do. To begin with, I do a presentation every year on Kagan for the governing board. The last one was in July. I can do another one this summer. We started implementing Kagan in 2019, beginning with our leadership structure and then beginning with coaching. And then we had a complete year off because of COVID. And then we were picking back up our training. So we haven't fully implemented yet because we haven't been able to because of COVID, because it is active student engagement where kids have to interact with each other, not 3 to 6 feet apart with masks on. So we're still working through the process of full implementation of Kagan. And the training that we are requesting that Mrs. Alec attend in Orlando is not to attend Disney World, it's to attend the 5-day training, which is not offered in the Phoenix area or any regional area. It's only offered in one place 2 times a year. And so that's the only place that she can, because if it was offered locally, we would absolutely do it locally. I mean, that's silly to even think that we would send someone out of state when we could send them locally. And actually, we have hosted Kagan trainings on our campus and allowed other districts to come in as opposed to sending people out. So I can answer questions about the school trainer model. It's basically an opportunity for us to create internal capacity, and we're starting at Western Sky Middle School with a Kagan expert. I mean, Mrs. Alec has been teaching using Kagan in her classroom for years. She's been to several trainings. She's part of our leadership coaching team for Kagan. She went through a grueling application process to even be accepted to attend this training. This isn't just I want to go. This is an application, a series of videos of using Kagan in your classroom and showing active student engagement, sharing student data. So it has been a lengthy process, and she is the perfect person to be the first person to pilot this for our district and at a middle school level where we can certainly use active engagement where kids are learning thinking skills and social skills and working collaboratively together skills. I'm happy to answer any other questions.
Yeah, I would just like to comment that I was able to attend one of the original trainings that we had at Support Services before the pandemic and was very impressed with Kagan, and I understand why it would have been very challenging, if not impossible, to implement Kagan during the pandemic. We just went to a tour of Western Sky Middle School. 3 of the board members did on Wednesday, and we could see Kagan in action, which is very interactive and engaging for the students. That's the whole point. So I think it would be helpful for you to re-educate the board on what Kagan is and what it isn't at the first available opportunity to do that.
I'd be happy to do that.
Any other commentary?
Yeah, I've got one more. I got one question. The expectation when she comes back is that she will implement it in the classroom?
She's already implementing it in her classroom. The expectation when she returns is that she will be a trainer on her site, so she can legally and correctly teach Kagan to her staff. She can coach her staff on it, and then also bringing new teachers up to speed.
And she's going to have time to do that?
Yeah, well, we're going to work on that part, and a lot of it will be observing her in her classroom and then her getting out to observe in their classrooms. So.
Okay. And I can't remember, what does she teach?
She teaches 6th grade at Western Sky.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that this is, I'm aware of Kagan. I don't have an issue with it.
I knew you would be.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with it. I just want to make sure that we're doing something with it when we come back, intentionally, on purpose, deliberately, in order to enhance our skill in the classroom. And I just want to make sure, for lack of a better term, we get our bang for the buck, that we're doing something with it, we're going to implement it, and moving forward. Other than that, I don't have an issue. You answered my question.
We are, and that's one of the reasons we're starting small, is to make sure that we can have a school trainer model that works for Litchfield before we send other people to this training to get further training. Thank you.
Excellent. I move to approve item 6P as presented.
Second.
Having a first and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay. Jeremy Honak, nay.
Motion carries. Next up on our agenda is item 7A, classified personnel employment, position change with new employment agreement / salary exceptions, presented by Superintendent Gunning.
Madam President, members of the governing board, we would ask that you would approve these new hires, salary exceptions, and placements.
Do any board members have questions on the classified personnel hires?
I don't have any questions, but I think a few of them are in the audience this evening, so thank you for joining us, and hopefully welcome aboard.
Then I move to approve the classified personnel employment position change with new employment agreement salary exceptions as presented.
I second.
Having a first and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I believe Superintendent Gunning would like the floor to introduce some of our new people.
Yes, I would love the opportunity to introduce some of our new leaders. First, I would like to introduce Leanne Reichs. She will be our new Director of Human Resources with over 20 years of experience in HR, a bachelor's degree with a focus in human resources, a PHR certification, and an SPHR certification. So Leanne? Wait. And then we have Tim Miller, who will be our Director of Student Information. He has over 8 years of experience in education with 2 years focused in student info with a bachelor's in education, and we are super excited to have him on board. And last but not least, Michael Vaughn, with over 5 years experience in finance, accounting, and auditing, a CPA where he scored in the top 10 of the year of 2016. He has a bachelor's in accounting and in computer information systems and a master's in accounting. Welcome, Michael. Thank you.
Welcome, everyone. I look forward to working with all of you, as I'm sure the rest of the board do as well. Next up on our agenda is item 7B, additional stipend requests recommended for approval for summer school. Superintendent Gunning.
Madam President, members of the governing board, we would like to ask for you to approve additional stipends and requests for approval for summer school. This is to help us align. We did apply for the additional governor's summer school program. So this more aligns with that so that we can run either simultaneously or match his program completely.
Do any board members have questions for Superintendent Gunning?
We have not heard back just yet, but we're hoping by the end of next week on the other side of it. But we have funds we put in for ESSER.
For the grant, you mean, for the governor's grant?
Yeah.
If there are no questions, I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve the additional stipends for summer school as presented.
I second.
Having a first and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next on our agenda is item 7C, approval of projected expenditure budget for the 2022-2023 school year. This will be presented by Executive Director Qualls.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the governing board. So tonight we just have a quick update on the projected budget. We've been talking about it for a couple months, so tonight I'm just going to kind of highlight a couple of items in the slides and talk about a couple of the little modifications that we made. So this does align with our strategic plan and increasing our stakeholders' knowledge and understanding of school finance. So as I mentioned, we've been talking about this for a couple months. We started back in January with our contract language. We're now here in April to talk about the projected budget, the classroom site funds now that we have that amount for next year, and then our insurance plans. And then in May, we'll be issuing contracts and bringing back some placement charts for you for next school year. So the projected budget for 2023 for maintenance and operations is $83.8 million. It's based on an increase of 200 students, which I obtained from our demographer's report, and it assumes the 2% increase in the base support level. So at this time, this is the best information we have for planning for next year. To estimate expenditures, I start with the anticipated amount for this year and then add any additional items and subtract anything we know where we might have a little cost savings. So in this list, we do have the 2% performance pay, which I'll talk about a little more in another slide. Some additional pay increases, which will be on a future slide also. The board had asked to increase employees below $15 to $15 per hour. So that item's been added, and then around $640,000 for reducing compression. Also in here, I have the Leader in Me. We had talked about adding 4 schools to actually adding 3 schools to Leader in Me and help fund Verrado Heritage in the future. So in total, spending just over $83 million.
Can I ask a question before you go on? I know we've talked about this before, but I just want to get clarification. The vacant positions from this past year that we're moving forward, what do we anticipate in terms of vacant positions this year? Do we anticipate that we will actually spend all $984,000? Or is this just conservative, we're putting it all in there to be safe?
So this would be if we fill the positions that we currently have that were unfilled.
I have a question. Same question, I guess, in the same vein. The vacant positions in 21, 22, the 984,000, does that include the increases? Does not. Does not? Why wouldn't it?
You know, there's some give and take in the budget, and I'm generally the conservative, and I over budget for things, so this is kind of just a, you know, if we fill them all, then we fill them all.
Well, and I would just add to that, the other thing is, this budget would be filling them all on day one. That's not very likely to happen, so we're going to have some wiggle room there.
True.
Okay, so looking at the performance pay, so it's a 2% based on the level of the employee's evaluation. So for certified teachers, level 1, which would be our first year teachers, would be $800, level 2A, 850, 2B, 900, and then level 4, 950. So across the top, you see level 1, level 2, so that would be the evaluation for each of those positions. If we go down further, if we look at classified employees, it would be 0% if they were the very lowest, really not performing, and then go up to 1.5% increase for the next level, 1.75, and then up to 2. In addition, we had discussed percentage increases by category. So for teachers, an additional 2%. So in total, we're looking at a 4% for our certified teachers, coaches, assessment staff, student advisors. For our directors, administrators, additional 1%. So in total, it would be 3%. And then for our classified hourly and supervisors, an additional 4%, which, so if they're in the top category, it would be a 6%. So that will cost about $1.2 million. We completed a salary compensation study a couple months ago. These are a couple additional positions for adjustments on our placement charts. When we look at staffing changes, main changes are bringing back positions that were coded to different grants or ESSER funds back to M&O. We are changing or recommending to change the white tanks from a director to a principal position. I did increase assistant principals to be a full-time at the K-8s, and then we also increased the instructional coaches for K-8s to be a 1.0 rather than a 0.5. When we look at instructional positions, I added in an amount for guest teachers to help cover classes and help on the school sites. And also instructional assistants. We talked about phasing in additional instructional assistants at each campus. So the recommendation would be 3 5.5 hours on a K-5 campus and 1 on a 6-8. So that would mean on a K-8, it would be an additional 4. We talked about changing our psychologist into an intern position, and then some additional positions for district support levels, including the positions for the one-to-one device program. So when we look in summary for maintenance and operation, the estimated budget is $83.8 million. Our anticipated expenditures are $83.2, which leaves us a budget balance of about $500,000. If we were to carry forward $6 million, we would need to use approximately 5.5 million of our other funds, our cash funds, which would leave us around $10 million at the end of 2023. So the cash accounts that we would be using would be the Medicaid reimbursement, Civic Center, gifts and donations, and indirect costs. So as you can see in the schedule, currently, the revenue that's being generated of about $1 million is what we're currently spending from those funds. So currently, we're breaking even in those, but now we're looking at utilizing about $5.5 million. Do you have any questions?
I don't have a question, but I would like for you to, because we've gone through most of this before, but if you could please put in your carry forward notes for next year's budget to analyze or perhaps get feedback before we have the budget process on specifically the contracted guest teachers, how that program is working, and if the campuses want to continue that, as well as the additional aides that we've approved this year. I think both of those are things that we haven't done before, and I would like to get feedback on how the program is working and if it's something that they would like to have continued funding going forward. Any other board member comments or questions on the budget? My question to all of you would be, are you comfortable with reducing our carry forward from $8 million to $6 million? And in addition, are you comfortable with using up to about $5 million of our additional funds, knowing that that is what I would call worst case scenario? Wendy is notoriously conservative, which is one of her best qualities, and so I don't think we'll actually end up there, but we could, so we need to be prepared for that.
I just have one comment. I think I don't have any issue per se with where the budget is now, but I would encourage us as a board to reconsider stair-stepping into the $15 an hour for classified staff and adjusting to $14 in year one and $15 in year two. We are making significant changes to staffing this year, which is excellent. We all want them. We all know that they're necessary. We are also offering a very hefty increase to our classified staff, even without the $15 minimum wage. And just in my conservative self, I would love to see us make the promise to get to $15, but do it 1 year at a time versus jumping there in year one. I'm fully in support of getting there. I'd just like to see us do it in 2 years versus 1.
Board Member Zaidama?
I don't think we can make that promise for a board next year, potentially. I think that we need to make that decision now, because I think Dr. Dowling was totally right. $15 is what everybody's paying now, and I think we are competing with all of the areas around us that hire people part-time at $15 an hour, and we want to fill our positions. I think that's one of the biggest things that might be holding us back and making things more challenging for our teachers, is by not having these support staff positions filled. So if we can get there now, I want to do that now.
I agree with Melissa. $15 an hour, we need to make the move now. Everybody's already there, and we're competing for people that that may be the decision that will keep them from coming here versus another job. And my analogy last meeting about Taco Bell was just an analogy. It was nothing to do with demeaning of anybody or demeaning of Taco Bell. But $15 an hour, we need to go there. We need to go there now.
Well, I love Taco Bell. Board Member Homenack, do you have any feedback?
I really believe in saving money, and but I have to say that I go along with pretty much what Dr. Dowling said. The 15.
Thank you. I will admit, I like to be conservative as well, and I'm not an all or nothing person, so I would have a tendency to go with the $14 an hour, but the passion of my fellow board members for the $15 an hour makes me willing to go out on a limb, knowing that that is the most conservative kind of worst case scenario. From a budget standpoint, from spending down our remaining funds, but yet, to Board Member Zaidama's point, we really need to fill these positions because that is what's best for students. So I'm hopeful that the $15 an hour will help us make progress towards that. If there are no other comments or questions, I
have one other comment outside of that. I know we received information today about professional development and from the M&O funds and how this affects the overall budget. Before we approve this budget, I'd just like to formally request a future agenda item to address professional development, how we're spending those monies, and just make sure that we know that because we are approving this budget today, because we're mainly approving M&O, there are other monies being used here for training, and we talked about a few of those even on the consent agenda tonight. I think it's something the board wants to know more about and wants to address, so I just want to make sure that even in approving this budget, which it seems like we're in agreement to do, that it in no way prohibits us from having further conversation about how the money further down the line is spent, even though we're approving the larger budgets here.
Agreed. I do not believe that approving this budget precludes us from discussing or determining specifically the PD programs and budgets that we're funding, not only from M&O, but also from other areas. Is that correct, Executive Director Qualls?
Yes, because we're looking at a very high level right now in order to be able to approve a projected budget to move forward with our salary increases and our contracts. So there's definitely time for other discussions.
Okay, then I will entertain a motion.
I motion to approve the projected expenditure budget for 22-23 school year as presented.
I will second. Having a first and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. I'm going to now call for a 2-minute recess. We will reconvene in 2 minutes. Thank you.
It's working for me, so. It's got to be the acoustics in here.
Acoustics are terrible, and then the mics pick up now because of that, because I got to raise the gain so much. So,
Is Jeremy's situation taken care of?
oh yeah, if you hear the video, that's good.
Yeah, well, whatever you did there.
So, well, I mean, the way we had to wire it, we had to put his feed directly into the amp, so we could actually hear it, and then off of Zoom,
Well,
it
that's
sounds
what you
great.
were saying, yeah, I understood what you were saying, I just,
If we don't use Zoom, this place sounds great.
oh, really?
But once we turn Zoom on, this is what we get from it.
That makes sense, because
There's a little delay.
the pushback, okay.
Like I said, I went to CCD, talked to the guy there, the sound guy there, and he looked at it, and he says, I'm not having anything because they do a little different production where they videotape it and then play it. Not us trying to stream it live and stream the feed. He said then they have people come in on Zoom off of the video, not off of the live feed.
Yeah, we did that in St. Thomas Aquinas back in, that was, shoot, I think they were Zooming two masses on Sunday, maybe on Sunday night too. And the acoustics are very bad. Very bad. We're going to sit.
Especially when you're all around.
Yeah. Fortunately, we don't do that.
I believe we are ready to reconvene the meeting. We will continue tonight's governing board meeting with agenda item 7D, approval of 2022-2023 medical, dental, life, and vision insurance. Before I turn the floor over to Director Sanders, Board Member Honak, would you please confirm your presence?
Jeremy Honak confirming my presence.
Thank you. Director Sanders.
Madam President, members of the board, so this item was tabled at our last regular governing board meeting, pending the approval of tonight's budget expenditure that was approved. So as we know, we are going to have a 3% increase for medical insurance for next year. We will not have any increases for dental, vision, and life. In the agenda, I did make a modification to the financial impact section. The modification reflects using actual enrollment numbers for the projected section, and adding staffing that Wendy covered this evening. So we added additional staffing numbers to that projected information, to result in an additional cost for the increase, the 3% increase, estimated at $461,743. So our district administration recommends the information and as presented.
I have one question for clarification. Is the copay gold plan or the classic gold plan the old grandfathered plan?
The copay gold is the old grandfathered plan.
Okay, because I was wondering how we are increasing that. Okay, that makes sense. Thank you. Any board member comments or questions?
Just a comment, actually. I am happy once again that we're able to continue to provide this amazing benefit to all of our employees that are, that are eligible for coverage. I do want to say that, with additional staffing, obviously comes additional dollars, and looking at, $460,000 in additional benefits that we knew was coming is just another thing I think we need to keep our eye on and continue to communicate with our employees that as the cost of benefits rise, we may be at a situation, we've talked about this before as a board, where we need to share some of the cost of the increases as we move forward. So I'm happy that this year we didn't have to go that route, but just, in the future, I think we probably will have to consider that, but thankful we're able to cover it completely this year.
In the future, I'd like to see, maybe you're doing that now, but survey of the employees with the concern that Danielle has about at some point in time, it's going to be unsustainable to continue to do what we're doing. And we need to have a clear understanding, clear picture from our employees. What do they want? We got a pool of money. It's in the middle of the table. Do you want to continue to see employee only, basically free, is it not, medical and dental?
Yes, we
or
cover
would
it.
you rather see more money in your paycheck, i.e. a pay raise in your base salary? Now, as you get closer to retirement, it's probably going to be, they're going to see more money in their contract amount. So, but we need to have a clear understanding of that. At some point, it's not going to be both. It may be one or the other. We may be able to sustain the medical and dental, but not give you much of a robust salary increase. So we have to keep that in mind. And I'd like to see the district survey the staff, and at some point in time, before we even begin the budget process in the fall. Just a comment.
I agree. I think those conversations need to start happening soon, like this year, because I think we all are kind of in agreement that we are about to hit our cap of what we can keep paying for completely for insurance while giving these raises that we've been blessed to be able to give all our staff for so long. But at some point, they're right. There's only one pot of money. So we have to make responsible decisions on what to do with that. And I think having feedback from our staff would be very helpful.
I agree. I would ask the administration to put out a survey, perhaps in Q2 of the upcoming school year, so that that information would be available in Q3 when we begin the budget discussions for the next year, and when we find out what our insurance increase will potentially be as well.
One more comment. I also want us to make sure that we are advertising everywhere, like what we are spending on this for our employees, so that they are seeing that this is part of what they are paid. Because it's a lot of money that we pay for them, so they should know that's part of their total package.
If there are no further comments or questions, I will entertain a motion.
Sorry. I move to approve the continuation of the insurance offerings as presented.
I second.
Having a first and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next on our agenda is item 7E, approval of professional memberships for the 2022-2023 fiscal year. This will be presented by Executive Director Qualls.
Thank you, Madam President. This item came back from our last meeting. It does have the cost information that was requested.
I believe the request was the specific dollar amounts for each of these programs. Do any board members have questions or comments? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve the recommendation for professional memberships as presented.
I will second. Having a first and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item on our agenda is item 7F, approval of classroom site fund compensation, fiscal year 22-23. This item will be presented by Executive Director Qualls.
Thank you, Madam President. So we did receive the new estimate for next year's classroom site fund, and it is going to be $708. This is significantly higher than last year's amount that they thought was going to be ongoing. So if you remember last year, they made a couple different adjustments. They thought that the ongoing revenue would be about $522 per student. And then the additional, they said, we think this is one time. And so we had the one-time stipend that was split into two payments for the current year. Since the total amount for the current year was $733, it is just a $25 difference going into next year. And we did have approximately 232 additional students. So the funding is increasing for those funds. And so the proposal is for the base pay from Fund 11 to increase by $550. Fund 12, which is our performance pay, to increase by $1,000, and then 13, which is used for instructional assistants and base pay, for teachers' base pay to go up $1,050. So the total increase would be $2,600, but there will not be the one-time stipend. So overall, it would be a $100 increase, but I'm really happy to see that it didn't have to be just one time, and it can continue into next year.
Yeah, I think that's wonderful. I know when I first read this, I remember last year saying we have to remind everyone this is one time. Do not count on this happening again. So I'm ecstatic that we're able to continue the level of compensation and actually increase it a little bit from what we had last year. Any other board member comments or questions? Then I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve classroom site fund compensation for fiscal year 22-23 as presented.
I second.
Having a first and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up is agenda item 7G, approval of revised agreement with International Alliance Group LLC to employ up to 4 international exchange teachers. Superintendent Gunning, you have the floor.
Madam President, members of the governing board, we had an update. They sent us a new agreement with a couple of changes. One of the changes that was made was if the invoice is not paid on time, there's a 1% fee. So they added that component. And then to be in compliance with the State Department, they made a change in regards to the medical insurance. So IAJ will provide the medical insurance that meets the coverage requirements of the state and will invoice the district for an estimated $3,000, which is still a savings for us because we pay over $7,500 for insurance coverage. So those are the two changes.
Any board member questions or comments?
I just want to clarify that we had previously approved this. We're just coming back because the components of the agreement have changed, not because we have any different you have any different recommendation in terms of the program overall. So
Correct.
something we've already approved, just the components changed, or bringing it back. Okay, just wanted to
Correct.
clarify.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Then I will move to approve the revised agreement as presented.
Second?
Having a first and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up on our agenda is item 8A, Superintendent Goals Update, specifically the Employee Engagement Survey results. Superintendent Gunning.
Madam President, members of the governing board, we would like to present to you our employee engagement survey results. We apologize for a little bit of the delay. This was one of the items that kept getting bumped a little bit along the way because we had very, very busy schedules for our board meetings. So let's just hop right in. This aligns directly to our strategic plan in providing feedback in multiple areas. It's all about the continuous improvement. We obtain survey results, we roll out for input, create an action plan, and then continue to evaluate annually every year. The results roll out at a glance. The purpose is to be transparent and have that communication process for leaders to share their data with their stakeholders and to identify priority actions and communicate next steps for continuous improvement. We share the data with staff and stakeholders to gather additional feedback and to develop improvement strategies together. A transparent communication process that includes the collective analysis of the data to develop specific new actions that should improve results. This is a process that we implemented after the rollout of our strategic plan, and we have been consistent with our 3 surveys over the past years. I will say that during the COVID time, it was a little bit different in the process, so we are excited to get back to the typical rollout where we're actually in person. Here's a sample of some of the questions in which employees ranked from strongly disagree to strongly agree. And then the final, where they could comment, open comment, what's working well in the school district, what areas could be improved, and if there is anyone that they would like to recognize. So this past year, we had a total of 403 employees provide feedback. The organizational's overall mean was a 4.11 on a scale of 1 to 5, and 46% were in the top box of strongly agree. When we go to set our goals, so when we would look at this, this gives us a chart to follow. So in next year, as we're going forward, we would like to shoot for the goal of having a 0.05 increase. In the rollout process, one of the things that you want to do is to analyze your 3 highest scoring items to reflect upon those items. You want to be able to identify specific actions that contribute to those successes. That way we don't assume what we did in making the strong scores in that arena or those areas, but that we know for certain. Then we look at the 3 lowest scoring items
And with that, we analyze each of those items to determine what would a 5 look like. And in analyzing what a 5 would look like, then as a coherent group, identify 2 to 3 target areas in each of those to improve in those scores. So we roll out from a district level with our leaders, then our leaders roll out their individual, either department or school related items back to their campus. If by chance one of these is not their lowest scoring items in their actual school setting, I still send these items so that I can obtain feedback, because as you can tell, there are a couple areas in relation to superintendent, so that I have some specific feedback that I can work on. Upcoming timeline, the employee engagement survey closed December 17th. The rollout process has been happening. Most of it happened between the January to February timeframe. Both our parent and family satisfaction surveys and student engagement surveys have gone out, and the feedback has come back, and we're in the process of rolling those out now. So what that looks like for a campus is not only working with their staff, but also their, like if it's a student survey, like working with their student groups, as well as for family feedback, working with their PTAs, their PTOs, and their site councils to gain feedback and insight to set goals. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions. So in May, we'll probably be rolling out the other 2.
Okay. Any questions from the governing board?
Comment maybe. I think we were a little surprised in 2020 that, we had as much participation and great feedback that we did have. So it's a little surprising that we're headed in the wrong direction, because that was such a tough year, and so I'm a little surprised by that. But I think that a bigger concern is that our lowest scoring items continue to be the same. And so what are we doing? And I know we're talking about a multi-level approach, right? We've got stakeholders at all levels. We've got schools, we've got district, we've got the superintendent and the admin council. So what is your strategy from here, knowing that we did a rollout last year, we had some strategies, they weren't as effective as we wanted them to be. What do we do from here to make sure these aren't the same moving forward?
I think the key component is sharing all of the strategies that we've done and gain feedback on that as well. And it's been interesting to gain some insight in having people put their finger on specific action items, because it's hard for them to identify like what specifically could we do differently that would have an impact on the fiscal responsibility. So some I know would say, well, we know we're fiscally responsible because of our rainy day fund and how we've been able to manage that and sustain. And others might say, well, we're not as fiscally responsible because we want higher raises or more increases. So I think it's that piece, and then continuing that spiral communication. So making sure that one of the components that we gain feedback on is making sure that we spiral that. Like we're always linking it back to the survey, so that hopefully then that way when they go to take it again, they realize, oh, this was the item they were working on, and this is what they've done to communicate the fiscal responsibility of the district.
I have a comment. Jeremy Honak.
Go ahead, Mr. Honak.
Thank you. I'm really concerned about this survey. I see the blank survey at the top with 14 items, choose the response, but it doesn't show how all of these came out. It just simply lists the top 2 and the bottom 2. And I had to really get to work on a little bit to more than should be. And they're also separated by 4 slides to figure out which ones, when I look at the list of 14, which ones were the high scoring and the low scoring. Still haven't figured out the low scoring ones, but I don't know why. It seems like this is being spun a little bit. It's not being forthright. I'm interested in number 1. The principal supervisor provides me good processes and resources to do my job. Was that second to bottom or second to top? You know what I'm trying to say all the way down here. So I don't understand why that. I don't care about the overall mean in the top box and the whatever and that stuff. I'd just like to see the results of the survey. Seem to be hidden to me.
So, Mr. Honig, it sounds like you want to see, in order from top to bottom, answers to each of the questions. I will say that on slide 8, it shows you the top 3 highest scoring items, and on slide 9, it shows the bottom 3 scoring items. The rest of the items would obviously fall between those two, but I do believe that's information that Superintendent Gunning could distribute to us as well.
Yes.
Could you put that in a Friday update, please?
Yes.
Thank you, Superintendent Gunning.
Yeah, thank you. Jeremy Honig again. I think ranking them would be a good start, and not only ranking them, but maybe the percentages, so we get a little idea of where, if there's a big gap or something like that. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Any other board member comments or questions? Thank you, Superintendent Gunning. Next up on our agenda is item 8B, which is the Learning Recovery Update, also presented by Superintendent Gunning.
Madam President, members of the governing board, we'd like to jump into our learning update. We did take some feedback from, I think it was March, so we started to implement some of those things, so please provide even more feedback if there's additional recommendations that you might have. So the student data, you have the latest. Right now, what we are is in the midst of our AASA assessment for our state assessment, the new name. And I think I accidentally keep hitting, I'm tapping buttons and I did not realize. Sorry about that. So if we jump in, looking at our math curriculum and adoption, we want to thank you again for approving a brand new curriculum back in March 15th, and that will be implemented at the 22-23 school year. Edgenuity, this was implemented. It rolled out in August of 2022. And it was available for any student who was absent, and to help support different areas within the campus. What we'll be doing this year is monitoring those absences, since the quarantines and isolations have changed. So we may very well come back to you with a change in this to modify the amount of usage, because we may not need it, and we don't want to spend a large dollar amount if it's not needed. The district math coach, the position was filled. I think you approved the actual person tonight, and it'll be full-time in the 22-23 school year, as well as you may see future stipends as we approach the end of the year, and obtain their assistance as we go into planning for the adoption and implementation of a brand new math curriculum. Middle school mental health resources. Right now, we're just kind of holding tight. They felt like they had enough resources, so they just wanted to hold tight. They didn't want to just spend the money for spending it. They're going to review everything and see if there's any additional resources that they would recommend, and or if they did not have anything, then we would come back with a modification or a change recommendation to the grant. Math aides, we are still currently trying to fill those positions, and we will continue to do so. This is the time of year, of course, that we see transition with all of our instructional aides, but hopefully with the increases that you approved tonight, that we'll be able to fill those positions in a more timely fashion. They are still in the process of recruiting the district math specialists, and we continue to make progress in that area. Special education ELA intervention program, they are looking at, still looking at Orton-Gillingham programs. The struggle that we've had in this area, and so the PD goes along with the actual program, is that we've had minimal response from vendors, which has been disappointing, and the quality of the responses. So I know our purchasing department right now is working on some clarification with who did respond, and asking some questions so that they have a more completed application so we can go through that process.
Can I ask a question on that? Is the lack of response due to the dollar amount? I mean, some of our other programs are, in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. So is it because we're looking to spend like less than that we're just not getting a response?
I don't think so. What I do believe is that other we're finding in other areas they're feeling the same pains that we have in relation to COVID and staffing. So they're not having the staff to turn things around in a timely fashion and not at the level of quality that they typically would.
Okay, thank you.
We have received the go and are working on the ELL intervention programs. So she's working on that process with the newcomer libraries, Scholastic magazines, and then getting some early access to some of those. Also ordered books for her book study. Special ed in Tier 3 for executive skill development. They are in the final stages of the RFP process with that. They are looking at trying to maximize usage, so it'll be trying to maximize that time frame of that July 1, so going into next year so that we don't have a weird ending time for students. After school clubs and tutoring are in the final stages of reviewing from the companies that have submitted, so that's pretty exciting. So they are looking through those. They'll go through the final stages of those process of scoring and being able to come back with recommendations. Summer school. We're very excited that we were able to put in for the Governor's On Track grant. We are trying to learn about all the caveats with that grant, so we learn something new every time that they listen to a webinar, but we are excited. It is not a competitive grant, but the grant will go away as kind of like a first come, first serve. So as the dollars are used up, then that's when they'll start turning people away. But we are excited, and Director Scudder has done an amazing job along with Executive Director Duplain in really mapping out our summer school program. Professional development within our schools. We have continued to work on those pieces. And so we know definitely Verado L and DLA had rolled out some, and the rest of the campuses are working on what they would like to see for the next school year. Our ASU parent engagement program, that did begin. Our spring session started March 31st. It's housed at Dreaming Summit, and we have 15 parents that are participating in that program currently. Mango Language, the ordering is in process for next fiscal year to maximize the parent access. And Ready Rosie Early Literacy PO was issued actually today. Care room supplies, the schools are in the process of ordering those supplies. And mental health professional development, we've been able to do a lot of that and conduct it in-house. Just a little piece of information in regards to our care room and behavior techs. I know that several of you were able to visit several of the campuses and actually see their care room. We just wanted to let you know that on average, 340 students are serviced every week by providing those additional supports and skill building for those students. So that's pretty impressive. We're very excited about that. We're still waiting for the ESSER 3 set aside, though there were a couple items on there that we felt were really important and that we needed to move forward. So when we have the opportunity to revise some of our grants in relation to ESSER, you may see some of those items switch or move around since we still have not heard back from the governor's office on the set aside. And I would be more than happy to answer any questions.
Are there any board member questions on the learning recovery update?
Not a question per se, but a comment or a request on the governor's grant, the first page. The date, the duration, the ROI, all of those have been added. I think we talked about that last time. Thank you for adding those. Can we do the same for the ESSER grants as well and do that all the way through? I mean, I think
Yes.
you cover some of it there, but I like the way that was laid out. It was a little easier to see all of it individually. Thank you.
Definitely.
Any other comments or questions? Thank you, Superintendent Gunning.
Thank you.
Good.
Next, we will move on to our reports. First up is the report from Superintendent Gunning.
Love
hearing from me tonight. Madam President, members of the governing board, it's always an amazing opportunity to celebrate during my board report. So tonight I would like to celebrate that I was able to attend the National Board Certified Teachers Dinner, where we celebrated Miriam Wilson from Palm Valley, Allison Paterno from Barbara Roby, Julie Brownsberger from Verado L, and Julie Larson from Rancho Santa Fe. So it was an amazing night to celebrate them on that fabulous accomplishment. Also was able to attend the Top Golf, our foundation fundraiser, and thank you for your support from President Moran, Board Member Zeidema, and Board Member Clymer, and of course all of our community partners that continue to celebrate and support the great work of our teachers and our staff. Also attended the Litchfield Park State of the City address, which was on a Saturday a few weeks ago, and it was an honor to see the growth and opportunity within the city of Litchfield, and also to be recognized as a strong partner with them. And then we are, and I know that you've seen this, but we were very excited to be named Best of the West for the West Valley View for the 2022 school year. We've won the Best School District for 3 years in a row, which is amazing. Best Elementary School for Mabel Pageant. Congratulations, Mabel. Best Elementary Teacher, Lisa Flanagan from Corte Sierra. We had top 3 reader recommended for Best Place to Work for Litchfield District, Best Public School, Best Elementary School, and Diane Poe for Best Teacher, and then honorable mention for Dreaming Summit, Litchfield Elementary, and Michelle Clark from Verado Elementary. So lots to celebrate over the last month.
Excellent. Thank you, Superintendent Gunning. Now we will move on to agenda item 9B, reports from governing board members. Mr. Honak, you can present your report.
Please have someone go ahead of me, please.
All right, Board Member Clymer.
Sure. Just want to report.
Two-time open meeting law criminal Kimberly Moran cut him off my 3-hour prepared speech last time. This
Board
time I
Member
don't want to
Clymer
bother time.
No, you did not. I'm sorry, Mr. Honak, you asked for someone else to go first, and Board Member Clymer was given the floor. Board Member Clymer, please continue with your report.
Sure. I just wanted to include a few items from last month. I know we didn't get through all of our board reports last month, but I just wanted to make sure to say thank you and recognize a few people from the last one. So as Superintendent Gunning mentioned, some board members had gone through school showcases, and I just wanted to kind of give a shout out to those schools. I know preparing your campus and your teachers and your students for having additional adults on campus, especially as they were preparing and even going through state testing. I'm very thankful that they gave us the opportunity to walk around and ask questions and see the staff in action. I was able to visit White Tanks, Litchfield Elementary School, Verado Elementary School, Scott Libby, and Western Sky Middle School. So thank you to all the principals and everyone there on campus. They're always welcoming, and love the student interaction that we've gotten over the last couple, not even just at the middle school level, even at the elementary school level, with student leaders doing their own presentation and leading us around campus and really showing the pride they have for their school, which is great. I also want to extend a big thank you to Melissa O'Neill, who's a teacher at Mabel Paget. She invited us to Young Authors Week. This was last month. I was able to go to a kinder class, a 2nd grade class, and a 4th grade class to read to them and just answer questions. And I will give a very short shout out to Mrs. Epstein, whose 4th grade class gave me a run for my money in terms of what it means to be a board member. They engaged me with critical thinking questions and what I was doing to support students, why I was a board member, and what were some challenges that I faced. And it was really, really interesting conversation. There were some very dynamic kiddos in the class. So thank you for inviting me. I had a great time. Also, the Odyssey of the Mind competition, I attended. This was again last month. Several schools from our district had a very strong showing. Odyssey of the Mind, if you're not familiar, is a program that we have at many of our campuses that teaches kids imagination, innovation, critical thinking skills that allow students to just really flourish in an environment, and they get to select the projects that they work on, and they do it over an entire semester with their peers and their teacher leaders. So many of our schools actually went on to the state competition, which I believe was just a week or two ago, and did very well. So congratulations to everyone there. And last but not least, the Education Foundation Golf Fundraiser, as Mrs. Gunning mentioned. Outside of just being a really fun day to get out and be together with board members and community members, it reminds me how much support we have from our community that is just wonderful. We had, I believe it was the Litchfield Elementary PTA that had a team there. We had the folks from Scott Libby that you saw today, the Male Engagement Committee. They had 5 or 6 members there, and it was a blast talking to them and hearing about how they're really trying to fire up parents and people from different parts of the community that haven't felt like they could contribute in a meaningful way to our schools. So I'm anxious, as she mentioned earlier, that they were sort of preparing a presentation for the district level. So I'm excited about that. I actually was hoping that they would do that, because I think there's other schools that could benefit from that as well, trying to get more parents and more people in our community involved. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Clymer. Board Member Honak, are you ready to present your report?
Yes. It's Jeremy Honak. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we
Yes.
can.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'm very passionate about our district improving academics. I'm very passionate about it not going into areas that have no scientific value of improving academics. I've spent about 4 to 5 hours preparing a speech, and was illegally cut off on a false pretense. And so I don't really have an appetite for trying to present one of these, my speech. So it's a sad state of affairs that that's what's going on at Litchfield Elementary, along with everything else. So that's the end of my report.
Thank you, Board Member Honak. Dr. Dowling?
Yes, I'm pleased with the budget that was passed tonight. A lot of hard work went into that. Board members were knocking on your door, some of you, and I'm just happy. I think we have competitive salaries. I'm excited about some of the hires. I see we got some special needs teachers, cross-categorical, your self-contained teachers. I'm excited about that. Hopefully, everything we're doing, everything we proposed, every program that we've added this year for next year, the math, the computer programs, Leader and Me in some of the schools, I hope it translates into increased student achievement, communication with the students, getting those kids actively involved with what's going on in the classroom. And I'm just, I think we're heading in the right direction, back in the right direction. Not that we necessarily got off. Everybody got stung and off track with the pandemic, as if you would. Well, so I'm glad to see where we are. I'm just anxious to see our achievement scores this year. I'm just really waiting for those. So let me know as soon as they come in. Like I said, middle of the night, I don't care when you get them. Just give me a call. I want to see, because I expect improvement. I really do. I'm excited about what's going on right now.
Thank you, Dr. Dowling. Board Member Zaidaba?
So I normally try to keep it short, and I still will do the same. However, since we were not able to all give our reports last month, I do want to hit on some things that were done, because last month and this month have been incredibly busy as a board member. I was able to attend the same school tours, White Tanks, Litchfield Elementary School, Verrado Elementary School, Scott Libby Elementary School, and Western Sky Middle School, as Mrs. Clymer attended, and they were great to see the different things that are going on in our different campuses. I actually enjoyed getting to go to Western Sky during testing because we kind of got to see what that testing looks like. They were a computer testing school, so obviously not the same as our schools that are doing paper testing, but it was very quiet. It was just a very, very calm, quiet atmosphere. And just getting to see all these different schools, you see how each campus is different and they have their own different culture and their own different way of doing things, but that it all links back to our Litchfield district as a whole. I had not been to White Tanks before, so that was really impressive to see how they were doing things on their campus and getting to see the different ways that they are interacting with their students and different programs we have there. And I thought that that was fantastic to see that. Scott Libby is near and dear to my heart, so it was kind of nice to get to go back there, as I had kids there for 7 years between 3 different kids, and so it was nice to see that and see the changes they've made. We had some wonderful conversations with Principal Naylor, and one of the things I did want to bring up while we were there is she talked about how important it is for people who are concerned about what's going on in their schools, that they need to see what's going on in the schools with their own eyes. Principal Naylor very much said that her parents are welcome to come anytime and see what's happening on her campus at any time they wish. She's ready to show you what's happening so that you can see. We were able to see their care room called Chillville while we were there and get to talk to their behavior person and see the different things that they're doing to work with their students. I know that Karina Whalen has been there since my daughter was there several years ago, so she's gotten to see the growth of their students there using conscious discipline, and so it was really nice to see that. I know she would love to see some of our other board members come out, so if you have not had a chance to go, please get in touch with her so that you can see that school in action. But I encourage people from her schools to go and talk to her. She said people from the community were also welcome to come talk to her, so sorry. Mrs. Naylor said that was okay, though. I did ask her first. Some other things that have been happening, I was able to attend the job fair, which was really nice to see a lot of people interested in coming to work for our district. I love seeing these new people we're bringing in. We're getting a lot of outside people coming in, which is nice because we've been talking about wanting to bring in new people and grow our district. And so it was exciting to be at the job fair and be able to see that excitement with all our different schools and their booths. They set up their little tables, and it's really cute with their different school themes and the different treats they bring in and different ways they pump up their school environment. I also had the opportunity to volunteer, since we are now allowing people to go back into the classrooms and have parent volunteers and community volunteers back in our schools, which I'm super excited about. So I was able to go and volunteer in Mrs. Klein's first grade classroom and do a Wonders lesson with her kiddos, and that was really fun to do. I have never seen a class better managed in my life. They are first graders, and they were the most well-behaved, most respectful students I've ever seen. It was calm, they were learning, they were engaged, they were polite, and it was a joy to be there. So I really enjoyed doing that. A goal of mine next year, I'm hoping that I can get in to at least 1 class per grade level for our entire district. So I guess that'll be 9 grades total throughout the year. So if teachers are interested in having volunteers, please reach out to me. I would love to come and volunteer in your classroom and help, especially since I will now have more free time since all my kids will be in school full time. And on that note with the parent volunteers, I'm very happy to see that we're gonna have parent volunteers in our schools again. That's how I got on this board. Mrs. Clymer said earlier, I was involved with PTA, and that's my kind of way I came up to being a board member. And parent engagement is a huge indicator for student success, and therefore it is necessary to have parents engaged in all our campuses in any way that we can get them in. So I am proud to see our schools that have found unique ways to do it throughout the pandemic and have made sure to keep them engaged. And for our schools now that we are allowing people to come on campus again, I hope that we get that going as quickly as possible. One of the other things I do throughout the month is I follow all the Facebook pages for our schools and our parent groups, because that's a great way for us board members and community members to see what is happening. It's a great way to see the celebrations and things like that. So that's how sometimes I mix up stuff that are in our board reports from the principals with the Facebook pages, because I see so many things. But it's really exciting. Our schools are doing great things, and I hope that more people see those pages and look at those and follow them, because it's a great way to, again, see what's happening actually in our campuses. As far as this next month, I also was able to we had an executive session. We've had multiple study sessions about our budget, which I'm super happy about our budget that we were able to pass. I'm excited to see what this $15 an hour is going to do for filling our positions that we've had open. I also was able to attend the LESD Education Foundation fundraiser at Topgolf. It was great to see our community partners there. We've got business sponsors. I also engaged with several of our parent groups while we were there. Specifically, I got to talk to the male engagement group from Scott Libby, and I am excited for the things they're doing. I believe wholeheartedly that you can't just ask people to show up at a meeting at a school every month and they're going to be there and do things. And I think that they are taking that and they're doing it and they're thinking out of the box, and they've realized we're not going to get dads to come and do that. So let's go meet at Saddle Mountain Brewery and have a drink and have conversations outside of school. And they've gotten a ton of males to become involved that way. So I encourage our parent groups, and not just the dads, to think outside the box, to find new and creative ways to get people to want to come to your meetings and help with things, because it doesn't have to be on your campus. There's not one cookie cutter way to do things. So I encourage you guys to think out of the box for sure. I also was able to attend the Kinder experience at one of our campuses, and I was taken on a tour by two wonderful students, and they were very engaging. They talked to my little incoming Kinder and showed her around the campus, introduced her to teachers, and got her very excited about coming into kindergarten next year. It was a very exciting experience. I think that the campuses all did a really good job of engaging our families, and on that note, we are enrolling kindergarten students now. So if you have some incoming kindergartners, I encourage you to get them enrolled sooner rather than later, because the sooner we have our students enrolled, the sooner we know what our numbers look like so that we make sure we're properly staffed. I know a lot of times we have kindergartners that enroll later, and then they're trying to get kindergarten teachers hired towards the end of summer and beginning of the school year, and that's just harder on everybody. So if you have an incoming kinder, I do encourage you to get them enrolled now so that they are able to plan and prepare for that now. And then as we head into this end of the year, I am excited. We only have 28 more school days left, guys. We did it. This has been a really challenging year, but we're going to make it. And I am excited, like Dr. Dowling said, to see our scores, because I think our kids are going to show tremendous growth this year, and we're only going to keep doing better and better. But I think that this is coming to be a pretty great end of the year here. So thank you.
Very good.
Thank you, Board Members Idema. That was an excellent report. I love that. Okay, for my report this month, I was able to participate in the review follow-up that we had with Superintendent Gunning on March 22nd, as well as a study session on March 29th, which had a very productive budget discussion, which led into the successful approval of tonight's budget. And to Dr. Dowling and Board Members Idema's points earlier, the budget is one of the most important things that we do as a board, and I'm very pleased with the way that the discussions and collaboration went this year, as well as very happy to see the fruits of our labor with allocating those funds in the next year. I was able to attend the Western Sky Middle School Showcase. It's always a treat to see our teachers, staff, and students in their element, providing quality education that is not only effective but also fun. Their student groups, Builders Club, NJHS, and student council representatives gave us some information on what their programs are doing, and they're doing impressive work both on and off the campus. In light of the events at the end of our governing board meeting on March 15th, I took appropriate legal action as an individual to protect my right not to be harassed by Mr. Honak inside or outside of governing board meetings. I am grateful for the due process of our justice system and look forward to continuing to fulfill my oath of office as board president in a physically safe environment. I'm going to end my board report in a slightly unconventional way. Our amazing superintendent, Superintendent Gunning, recently had a birthday, so I'd like to invite my fellow board members and all attendees to join me in singing. Happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday, Superintendent Gunning, happy birthday to you.
And she spent it doing her superintendent duties at her certification class. So thank you for that too. We appreciate you.
Yes. And with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I motion to adjourn.
Second.
Having a motion and a second, all those in favor?